Now let us look into the various steps that we need to do before we can connect to a database, and after connection, how can we retrieve the results, or how can we execute certain queries which can manipulate the database or in the table specifically. Now, there are 7 different steps that we perform whenever we are writing a JDBC program. So once you write a Java application which is going to connect to a database to do certain activity related to the database. So very first thing, like we already told, like we need a package, that is your SQL package. So we need to import the package because this package consists of class and lot of interfaces, and that we need to use in our entire program. So once we import the package, the next thing or next step we are supposed to do is we have to register the particular driver that we are using. Are we using type 1 driver, type 2 driver, type 3 or type 4? Accordingly, we need to write down the syntax. Once the particular driver is being loaded, now we will try to create a connectivity with the database where we are going to take the help of your connection interface. Now, in order to, once the connectivity is done, so then we will create a statement which is nothing but the SQL query to be executed. Once the statement in the form of a query is prepared, we will execute the query, and later on we will process the result, and once everything is done towards the end, we are going to close the connection. So now let us see in detail how each of these steps are being performed so that we can develop a simple JDBC program. Now, like we said, the very first step is import the package. So the SQL package is the one which is to be imported, as we need all the class and interfaces along with their methods. So the very first line that we write is import java.sql.star, so that I can get all the classes as well as interfaces present within this SQL package. Once the package is being imported, the very second step is you have to load or register the driver. Now, to do this, we will be invoking a method. The name of the method is forName, and which belongs to a class that is called class. You can see C is in capital. So this is a predefined class, okay, in Java. So this forName method, which is actually a static method of this class, okay, we will be invoking this so that I can register the driver here. And you can see here, we can write like class, that is a predefined class we have, and for name, the method name. And here, for example, I am making a list of, for registering the Oracle driver, I'll be writing like Oracle dot JDBC dot driver dot Oracle driver. So these are the 4 different components separated by a dot we mention each time I deal with a Oracle driver. Now similarly, if I'm dealing with a MySQL driver, so then we will use the same for name method. Now the parameters are going to change, like it is com.mysql.cj, then we write JDBC, and at the end we write driver. So depending on which particular database you are talking to, maybe Oracle or MySQL, which is very popular with JDBC programs. Either we work with Oracle and MySQL in general. So this argument is going to be different because the forName method remains same of the class, predefined class, and inside what the string contains, those components are going to be different depending on which particular driver we are registering. Now, once we done with the registration of the driver, next we will establish the connection. And to do this, I will take the help of the driver manager class. And this class has one static method that is called your get connection. And by using this driver manager class, we will invoke this get connection method, and the get connection method has a return type which is a connection interface, which means whenever I invoke this get connection method by the help of the driver manager class, at the end we are going to return an object of or a reference of connection interface. Now, inside this get connection method, there are three parameters. The first one is a URL, which has some other details. And the second one is nothing but the username through which we connected to a database. And the third one is nothing but the password that we have used to connect to a database. Now let us see for a sample if we are dealing with the Oracle database here. So in the right hand side, you can see I'm taking this driver manager and we are invoking the get connection method. And in the URL part, which is a string, and we have some information here, like you can see, we start with JDBC and there is a colon. Oracle is nothing but the database that I'm using here, and then colon. Thin represents we are using thin driver, which is nothing but your type 4 driver, colon, @localhost, which means your Oracle might be installed in the same machine where you are working. If it is the same machine where Oracle is available, I will write here at the localhost. But if my Oracle is present in a different machine which is connected through network, then I have to mention the IP address of that particular machine where this Oracle is installed. Now this 1521 is the default port where Oracle usually run, and this XE is nothing but the edition of the Oracle, that is Express edition. So this entire string URL consists of lot of parts and each of the portion is separated by a colon. Now the second one is nothing but the username and the third one is your password. At the end of this entire get connection method is done, like we said, it returns a connection interface object. Hence we can see we have taken a reference, let's say some con, which is of connection interface. Now, for example, if you are dealing with MySQL database, then we are going to do the same job, but the URL is going to be different. Like we will begin with JDBC, just like we have done it earlier. Now, in case of Oracle, we will be writing MySQL. Then we will not write @ rather we will write // followed by localhost, assuming MySQL is present in the same machine where you are working. And this is the port number 3306 / followed by the database name, the database to which you want to connect to. And once again, the second and third arguments are nothing but the username and the password that is required. So once the connection is established with the particular database, now we are going through the next step, that is you are creating a statement. And with the create statement, there is a method we have which belongs to the connection interface, which we will be using in order to create one statement, which is nothing but a SQL query. Now, the object of this statement is actually responsible for executing the queries with the database. So, how do I call this create statement? Because create statement belongs to connection interface. Now, this method has a return type of statement. So, I'll be calling this create statement with the help of the connection related object, and at the end it is going to return what? An interface object, that is your statement. Now you can see here, already we got this con in the previous step as a part of connection reference. With that reference, we are making a call to create statement method. and this at the end is going to return a reference of statement or interface. Okay, so create statement is going to return an interface reference, that is your statement. Now this statement reference or the object I'll be using in order to execute the query. Now the next step, like we say, we have to execute the query. And for executing query, there are so many methods. One of the method for sample I'm using here is execute query method, which is very specifically used in order to execute the select query so that I can fetch certain records from the table. So the execute query method is actually belongs to the statement interface, and which is used to execute, like we said, the select query upon a table. Now this execute query method, because it is going to fetch some set of records, those set of records are nothing but we refer as result set. So each time we call execute query, and here we pass on the string, which is nothing but the select query, which is going to fetch me a set of records which I will be referring as a result set. Which means execute query method, whenever we call, like here you can see we are calling execute query method with the help of the statement object which we have created in the previous step. And here in the string we are writing select star from some table name. So this query upon execution is going to bring us a certain records, or rows of a table, and those records are being referred by your result set interface object, that is your, let's say, RS here. Now what does this RS does? Let's say we have got a table where some 3 records are there with certain number of columns. Now this RS, which is the result set reference, it is always present before the first record. If I say this is the first record, this is the second record, this is the third record, this result set object will be placed just before the first record. And which means whenever I want to fetch this first record, I have to bring this result set reference to the first record, and for doing so we will be taking the help of one of the method that is called your next method. Okay, now once we are about to process the result, like we said, the next method of the result set interface will be allowing us to navigate through the rows of the result set. So each time I call upon the next is going to find out whether there is a record available or not. And if it is available, it is going to return true. Okay. So we just check whether records are available or not by upon calling the next. And like we said, initially the result set cursor is just before the first row. And the moment I call the next method, it is going to move to the next row, which is in our case the first record. And if there are more rows available in the result set, suppose some 3 rows are available, so every time you call next, it is going to return true because rows are available. The moment we reach the last row, then if I check with the next, it is going to return false. Now when this result set is referring to a particular row, at that point of time we can use this get methods so that I can fetch the value of each of the column. Now when I use this get method, either I am allowed to write the position of the column, which is a numeric value, or I am allowed to write down the name of the column which we have mentioned while creating the table. So based on that, we will be able to fetch the particular column value with respect to a record. Now here you can see, for example, let's say we have an employee table with these 2 columns, employee EMP number and EMP name. and assuming we have certain records available. So now after the result set is ready, when I call rs.next, so the control will move to the first row or first record. At that first record, I'm just trying to fetch get int of 1. What is this int is? Because this EMP number column is representing a numeric one or number. So, whereas the second column EMP name is referring to varchar. Hence, you can see either I am going to use get int if it is a number type, or I can take this get string if it is a varchar type. And what this 1 and 2 are, they are nothing but the column positions. Because here, once I get some records, there are two columns. One is employee number, the other one is your employee name. So once my result set cursor is at this position, I mean in the first record, in order to fetch this column value, I'll be writing rs.getInt of 1. I'm writing int because this column is a number type. And to fetch the second column value in the same row, I can use rs.getString of 2. This 2 indicates the column position 2. I'm writing string because this column represents a varchar. Now, once I put this inside the while loop, so every time next is going to verify, like first I got this first record. Once again, when I go back to this rs.next, now the cursor will be put onto the next record. Like this, I can get the second record detail. Okay. The moment it reaches the last record, once all records are done, rs.next is going to return a boolean value which is your false. As a result, this entire loop is going to stop. Okay. So in the meantime, what we could do, we could fetch all the records present in the table. Now, once we have processed the result towards the end, we are supposed to close the connection. And to close the connection, we can call the close method of the connection object. So like we already created the connection object at the beginning to get a connection. And with the same object reference, we will call the close method so that the connection is completely closed.